Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to a new YouTube video on the channel. And today guys, we are going to be continuing our 2022 3-game match reviews. Yes, here we are for round 23 3-game match reviews. And oh man, can you believe that this is the third to last 3-game match reviews of the season? Now, I have already worked out what we're going to be doing for finals. I will do, I mean, I'm still not entirely sure just yet, but I'll work something out. But anyway, three more massive games in this video. Brisbane versus Melbourne, GWS versus Fremantle, and North Melbourne versus Gold Coast. So yes, 3 more massive games. This, of course, will be North Melbourne's last game with their interim coach before Alistair Clarkson takes over. Some more massive games in the top 4 as well. So let's go ahead and hop right into things with Brisbane versus Melbourne. Alright, so this game looked to be one of the closest games of the round, but we ended up getting something far from that. Melbourne ended up winning by 58, Brisbane 8-9-57, Melbourne 18-7-115. And taking this performance alone into finals is going to be really big for Melbourne, and taking it into, well, top 4 that they have ensured a double chance. Brisbane, they are still waiting on their result. It'd be extremely unlikely from here to get a double chance, but it is still very capable if a miracle happens, I think. If a miracle happens, I think Brisbane can do it, but I would highly doubt it. I think they are definitely outside the top 4 now, Brisbane, and will stay there, and will have a home elimination final versus either Fremantle, not versus Fremantle, either versus Richmond or Carlton/Western Bulldogs. So, yeah, there's a lot going on there. And Melbourne, they'll be playing in the top 4, and of course we'll have a double chance, and they want to lock away a top 2 spot as well, because oh how handy that'll be to have a top 2 spot for sure. But look, this game's over at half time. The D's kicked 6 goals in the first quarter, and you knew Brisbane weren't coming back. They kicked 1 goal in the second quarter, where Brisbane and Melbourne just handled the pressure a lot better. This was an intense game, pressure up, but Melbourne just handled it better. Every time Brisbane got the ball, they did something silly with it, or just couldn't. They just couldn't contain the amount of pressure. The Gabba was like an oven. It was that heated. It was really that heated in the third quarter. Not really a lot went on in the final quarter. The Demons just sealed the deal, but Brisbane did have a better last quarter than Melbourne. But taking that into finals for Melbourne is going to be a massive positive, and Brisbane taking in this performance to an elimination final is going to be pretty bad. Yes, it will be at the Gabba, but they have made the Gabba their fortress, but look, they've lost a couple of games this year. I mean, yes, Essendon was quite a poor loss because they had half their team out. But yeah, this game was poor. This game was really poor. Pickett kicked 4 goals, as did Fritsch. Neil, Rayner got 6 tackles each. Lockie Neal 109 fantasy and 30 disposals for Clayton Oliver. AFL fantasy 109 for Neil, 107 for Petrarca, 106 for Oliver, 98 for McCluggage, 93 for Brayshaw, 4 goals for Pickett and Fritsch, 3 for Brown, 2 for Danaher and Petrarca, as well as McCluggage, 30 disposals for Oliver, 29 for Neil, 27 for Brayshaw. Now to the marks we go, 9 for Payne, 8 for Lever, tackles 6 for Rayner and Neil, 5 for Lyons, Jackson and Oliver. Hitouts, 34 McInerney, 26 for Gawn, 17 for Jackson, 2 for Hipwood and McStay. And now to the team stats we go, which it was Brisbane actually went inside 58 more times than Melbourne. But as a result of this, every time Melbourne went inside 50, they pretty much scored. They were dangerous inside 50. No matter when they went inside 50, they were getting the ball, which does show quite a poor thing by Brisbane. They went inside 50 more times than what their score ended up being, which is quite poor. They did not make the most of their chances at all. Meanwhile, Melbourne did. And then Brisbane won centre clearances 16 to 9. That is another poor stat. Really should have been making more score than that. With that stat in a handy favour, but then Melbourne were better around the stoppage clearances, and then Melbourne led for the whole game. In the end, deserving winners. From the first bounce, Brisbane looked shaky. From the first bounce, Melbourne got off to a fast start. They kicked the first goal within the opening minute, and from there on, you could pretty much tell that it was their game to be won, and they ended up smashing the Lions. Alright, now to the first game on the Saturday, or today, where GWS 9-10-69 lose to Fremantle 13-11-89. GWS, they took a 31-point lead, but do show some promising signs of improvement for whoever will be coaching the club next year. They do have some pieces to work with. However, a big trade period looms for GWS, and some stars like Hopper, Taranto, Bruin look on the outer to leave, and there's a few other players as well that could be on the outer to leave, and no one really wants to go in. So I think the Giants, they have a good piece to work with so far, but I think they're going to have to be working more on the younger list of people and start a rebuild rather than actually try and get people to stay at the club. I think they'll have a big exodus throughout this trade period. And Fremantle, their premiership hopes stay alive. Their top 4 hopes stay alive as well. After this big win, they had to do it the hard way though. They didn't just get it all to be nice and perfect for them. They had to fight back the hard way. And GWS, they should have won this game, realistically. They were up by 31 points at one stage, and then they go ahead and lose it. They were really good in the first quarter. In the second quarter, they got out to that 31-point lead. But then Fremantle, they did enough. They kicked 1, 2, 3 goals late in the quarter to bring it back. That was big. To leave the margin at about 12 at half-time was massive. And then in the third quarter, that's where the comeback starts. They kick 3 goals to 1, even though GWS, they lead at half-time to Fremantle, at three-quarter time. Even though GWS did lead for most of that quarter, that's where the work started for Fremantle, and they've been such a good third-quarter side this year. That's where they've been able to change games, is in that third quarter. And that's where games do really change, is in that third quarter. That's where you can be even as you like at half time, but then you can go out and have you can be leading by 10 at half time and all of a sudden lead by 40 at three-quarter time. So that's where the game changes, that third quarter. And then in the final quarter, the Dockers just take absolute control to go ahead and win the game. They kick 5 goals in that last quarter, which seals it in the end. Sarong, 32 disposals, 3 goals for Hogan and Walters. Walters in his 200th game, and David Mundy in his final home and away game. But there's still obviously going to be finals for David Mundy and the Dockers. 117 fantasy for Brody, 7 tackles for Brody. He's been a good pickup as Will Brody. Got pretty much picked up for nothing, and he's been an absolute star for Fremantle. He just wasn't finding form at Gold Coast. And here he's at Fremantle doing stuff like this. 117 fantasy, a goal, 30 disposals, 3 marks, 7 tackles. You love to see that with a high disposal efficiency of 80 as well. That's really good. 109 fantasy for Taylor, 102 for Sarong, 89 for Brayshaw. 3 goals for Hogan Walters, 2 for O'Driscoll, 2 for Hopper and Brayshaw. Disposals, 32 for Sarong, 30 for Brody and Mundy. 25 for Young and Brayshaw. Mundy had a big last quarter as well. Kicked a goal, did David Mundy as well. Now to the marks we go. 12 for Taylor, 8 for Kelly and Akers. 7 for Ash, Hogan, Riccardi and Walters. Tackles, 7 for Brody, 5 for Whitfield. Hit-outs, 28 for Darcy, 17 for Meek. Them two were all over Briggs with 14. Himmelberg with 2. Hogan with 1. Riccardi with 1. So now to team stats we go, where Fremantle dominated inside 50, 45-69 plus 24. They were all over the Giants in that aspect, and the Giants just not going inside 50 enough times to generate some sort of score. Fremantle smashed GWS in hit-outs, in clearances, in centre clearances, and in stoppage clearances. And then marks was in favour of GWS. GWS did lead for most of the game. This one was really one of those interesting games because you could say GWS would deserve winners in the end. Well, should have deserved the win. They did end up choking a 31-point margin. But I think Fremantle, this shows this is a good performance for one reason, that they can come back from 31 points. They can make a comeback. So even though it may not be the most ideal way to go into finals, it is still okay in a way. Alright, so now to the second game on the Saturday afternoon between North Melbourne and Gold Coast, where North Melbourne 6-11-47 gets smashed by Gold Coast 16-18-114. This was North's chance to win, but I think now, yes, just take out the wooden spoon, pick number 1 and then do whatever you want with it. But yes, it was a really big performance by Gold Coast. North Melbourne and both Gold Coast were both inaccurate as well. After Gold Coast really had the chance to get away in that second quarter, but just couldn't quite. But they had a good first quarter. In the second quarter, it was even. They had a very bad quarter with inaccuracy. Did Gold Coast. North just not getting any chances whatsoever. And then in the third quarter, in the second half of the third quarter, that's where the foot went on the accelerator for Gold Coast, and they kicked 6 goals to 2 that quarter, and then they kicked 4 more goals to bring it home in the last. So 16-18 is obviously not the best score. They would have liked to have been a little bit more accurate than that, but that is still good enough, and they still win the game pretty comfortably by 67 in the end. Greenwood, Rao with the 10 tackles each, 140 fantasy for Swallow, 6 goals for Sexton, 33 disposals for Swallow. Barely seen Sexton in a Gold Coast jumper this year. I'm not sure whether he's just had quiet games or just hasn't played at all. But yeah, I haven't seen him for a little while. 140 fantasy for Swallow, by far the best on ground. A goal, 33 disposals, 9 marks, 4 tackles. 116 fantasy for Taylor, 115 for Greenwood, 114 for Anderson, 113 for Core, 110 for Ainsworth, 102 for Miller. 6 goals for Sexton. That was, again, game changer. 2 for Roses and Davies. 33 disposals for Swallow. 30 for Anderson. 28 for Core. 26 for Young and Davies. Uniac. Marks. 10 for Taylor. And Ainsworth. Now to the tackles. 10 for Greenwood and Rao. 7 for Miller. 5 for Ellis. And now the hit-outs we go. 30 for Goldstein. 28 for Witt. 6 for Troll. 5 for Comben. Of course, he was the late in. 1 for Casbolt as well. And Gold Coast smashed North Melbourne in the inside 50s. 45-72. That is big. Sorry for background noise. But yeah, that is absolutely massive there. That is a big differential with the inside 50s. And then, what else have we got? Yes, Gold Coast, they were all over North in the clearances. 26-44. 6-17 centre. And then 20-28 stoppage, all in favour of the Suns. And smashed them in marks inside 56-16. Just smashing them everywhere. Led for the whole game. Definitely deserving winners in the end. Wow, this is a big statement made. Even though Gold Coast haven't had the best end to a year, this is a good enough end, and they still show people they've got a good future coming up ahead. So now around the grounds to Cardinia Park right now, live game, Geelong versus West Coast at GMHBA Stadium. Geelong 8-5-53 are currently in front of West Coast 4-4-28. They are comfortably in front by 25 points. The Cats, I would have thought they would have been up by a bit more at this stage than what that... I thought they would have been up by a little bit more at this stage. But yes, they just kicked a goal, the Cats. But yeah, I thought they would have been up by a little bit more. But the Eagles, they've put up a little bit of a fight. Not to say they've been in the game, but they have still been there. They haven't really let themselves get absolutely destroyed. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these next 8 minutes in the second quarter go. Before, of course, the next half of footy to see how much they can win by. And for West Coast, what are they going to be able to do about it? How can they play this game? Can West Coast? So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this game unfolds. The Cats are minor premiers, however. Now, of course, to the 2 Saturday night games. Essendon versus Richmond is the first one. Big one. Richmond, if they win, they lock away 7th. However, if they lose, they may finish 8th, depending on if Carlton beat Collingwood. And then Port Adelaide play Adelaide in the showdown, which again, it has no effect on how finals will play out. But of course, it's still going to be a good game, hopefully. So now to Sunday's footy action, which is the thing that I have said a lot about in the past week, is that this game is going to be how the finals shape up. This game is these 3 games right here, which will be all in one 3-game match review. So make sure to subscribe with the notification bell on if you want to see this video right here, because that's going to be an action-packed one. But yes, Hawthorn versus Western Bulldogs, Carlton versus Collingwood, and St Kilda versus Sydney. 3 more massive games. 3 massive games that are going to decide the top 8 and the top 4, how things will be playing out. And then, of course, after that, we will be hitting finals time now. Also, heading on to the ladder, of course, the Cats, they are first on 72 points currently. The Eagles, cellar dwellers on 8. But yes, North Melbourne, they have locked away that minor premiership now. You'd be thinking, unless the Eagles were to get smashed by probably about 150 or 160 points, which probably won't end up happening. But yes, that is how things are turning out right now. Melbourne, they are currently in second on 64 points. They got a big percentage. So all Sydney have to do tomorrow is win by a good enough margin, though. Like, we've got to be probably looking at 30-40. Sydney got to be looking at 30-40 to win and get into the top 2. And then, yeah, they have to win to get into the top 2, obviously. Fremantle, 62 points. Their spot in the top 4 is not yet decided. Brisbane, they're in 5th. They can slip as low as 6th. However, if Collingwood lose, they'll finish 6th. And then 8th spot currently is up for grabs between Carlton or Western Bulldogs. And then going down the ladder, that is how things are turning out. So, there's a lot more footy action to go on. And of course, it's going to be Sunday. Sunday is the deciding day that's going to work out how things will be playing out. Of course, the Dogs, they'll be hungrier than ever to win, but they have a poor record in Tasmania. The Blues and the Pies, 2 good old rivals, will be meeting, and then the Saints and the Swans to close off the year. So, here we go. Massive, massive, massive games coming up. And then, of course, Geelong, West Coast, Essendon, Richmond, and Port Adelaide, we featured in tomorrow's 3-game match review. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Sending guys another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Bye everyone. Flaming Footy out.